Hello and welcome to another edition of In Depth. I'm your host, Yasmin Rigby Blues. And for the very first time, we're actually outside at the Provo Golf and Country Club. And we're talking with Mr. Hugh Dugan and Oisa Adaba, who are both a part of the Truce Foundation. And of course, getting right into it, we have to find out, what is the Truce Foundation?
Well, thank you, Yasmin. It's a pleasure to be here. The Truce Foundation of the USA is a small nonprofit organization that was founded a few years ago, inspired by the Olympic truce. As you may know, during the Olympic Games, countries agreed to try to put aside their differences to make it safe and possible for people to attend and participate. And the Truce Foundation of the U.S. thought this was a wonderful idea between countries, but why not try to apply this idea within a country, or perhaps within our own communities and households? So why not try to use the inspiration of those games, not just to settle conflicts between countries, but perhaps to address some conflict closer to home, or to decide to undertake some type of activity to realize our ideals and goals.
And what I'd like to find out is, how long has the Truce Foundation been around, and some of the things that you're involved with?
Well, the Truce Foundation started in about 2000. I went to the Olympic Games in Sydney, and I'd been to previous games as well, and I spoke with some friends, major philanthropists, who said, we'd like to take this idea further. So come the Athens Games, let's have a reception and an awards ceremony. We'd like to recognize the host country for providing a safe place to participate, to create open fields of play for all to participate safely in the spirit of the Olympic truce. So that we did. We established in Athens a wonderful reception aboard the Queen Mary II, the world's largest cruise ship. And we hosted, I'd say, about 100 people aboard the ship to an afternoon of awards. The first awards went to the host country of Greece, to the Prime Minister of Greece, who accepted the award, Kostas Karamanlis, and to the previous Foreign Minister of Greece, George Papandreou, who had just left office. We also recognized an exemplary American whose efforts to inspire us during the Games needs to be recognized. And in that case, we recognized Mitt Romney, who was the executive in charge of the Salt Lake Games of 2002. It was a remarkable accomplishment to pull off those Salt Lake Games just a few months after 9/11, when there was so much fear in the world. And I personally attended those games. The opening ceremonies were in the outdoor stadium in Salt Lake on the hill, and it was dark and it was frightening, frankly. The crowd was a bit anxious because this was the first and largest international gathering of its sort since 9/11, just a mere 5 months afterwards. President Bush himself attended and spoke at the opening ceremonies. So it was very inspirational to see how Mr. Romney pulled together the Salt Lake experience for all of us, and we wanted to recognize him as an exemplary American who overcame conflict as people try to overcome conflicts on their way to Olympic Games. We recognized those three individuals at Athens, and subsequently we had a reception at the Torino Games in 2006, I'm sorry, Torino Winter Olympic Games. Oisa was with us there, and perhaps she can also tell us about our awardees. We had a wonderful program in the equivalent of the Versailles of Italy. It was a palace outside of Torino called the Stupinigi. We had about 200 people again. Mitt Romney came back to present the award that we present to an exemplary American. Now we name it the Mitt Romney Truce Ideal Award. And he presented it to Peter Ueberroth, who is currently the chief of the U.S. Olympic Committee, had been in charge of the Los Angeles Games in 1984, as you may recall, subsequently was head of Major League Baseball, and an American icon who's rendered enormous service on behalf of Olympism and sport for peace around the world. So we recognized Mr. Ueberroth, who came and gave wonderful remarks. We also heard from the president of the International Olympic Committee, past president, Mr. Juan Antonio Samaranch, who graced us with his presence. And the Greek Minister of Culture attended as well, since the Greeks have a fascinating history with the Olympic truce and want to see it promoted through any program such as ours. We awarded the Italian host government, of course, for hosting the Games, and that was the foreign minister of Italy at that time.
And then we had the President's Awards. The President's Awards was presented at the time to the President of Liberia, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, being the first female African president, and she was picked because of her role in resolving the conflict in Liberia at the time and bringing democracy to the country. She was the first, like I said, she's the first elected female African president, and so we said, go Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, and then we presented that award to her. She was represented by the ambassador to Italy at the time. And then the second President's Award was given to President Obasanjo of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo of Nigeria. And the reason for the choice, for that particular choice, was President Obasanjo served as chairman of the African Union, and he was instrumental in resolving a lot of the conflicts going on in the African countries at the time. And that is what the Truce Award is all about bringing peace, ensuring safe passage for athletes. And also Nigeria is very big on sports. As you can see, I'm wearing a Nigeria t-shirt. So those were the two choices for the President's Award.
Yes, well, and thanks, Louisa, because speaking of Africa, and it's truly exciting how the Africans participated at the Winter Games, so to speak, by presenting themselves to accept our awards. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf sent a video message, and President Obasanjo sent his Minister of Information, and it was a prelude to a wonderful letter of that I received from the All Africa Games, which is the regional games for all of Africa, and in prelude to the Olympic Games. Each 4 years they meet in a certain capital. They're going to be playing the All Africa Games in Algeria in July. And I received a tremendous invitation to come over and participate as the Truce Foundation in their opening ceremonies, to invite the participants from the stadium floor at the opening to take our Truce Oath in conjunction with the athletes' oath. As you know, at most events, the athletes swear an oath of fair play prior to the games in front of the entire crowd. And we've also engineered our own oath for the rest of us to take. Spectators, people at home, near and far, can participate in the games more closely by taking an oath similar to the athlete's oath that addresses their interest in pursuing their goals and ideals during those 2 weeks of the games. So we intend to participate at the All Africa Games, and it's just so wonderful to be here at the Turks and Caicos, because we want to recognize the regional games very carefully throughout the world, and this is the first time we're able to do so at the regional level. And our hosts have been wonderful. We want to present our award tonight to the host government, to the Honorable Lillian Boyce, who is the Minister of Youth and Sport, who will come into very good company, as our other awardees have been the Prime Minister of Greece, the Foreign Minister of Greece, the Foreign Minister of Italy, the President of Nigeria, the President of Liberia, and now the Minister of Youth and Sport of Turks and Caicos. And we're so happy that she's agreed to accept our award.
And the Truce Oath is something, as he said, that will be recited by all. And I see we have cards here that will be having everyone. So tell us all about it.
Well, thank you. Again, the Truce Oath will be taken in conjunction with the Athlete's Oath. And athletes promise to play fair and square, and in front of the entire group pledge their oath of fair play. We will then invite the participants, who are not athletes, but athletes as well, to also take an oath that goes as follows, and it's called My Truce Oath, and it starts, I promise to use the inspiration of these days to make a truce with conflicts in my life that constrain me from realizing my goals and ideals. And this is something that they might wish to carry with them after the games are over as well. But it's an opportunity to use the inspiration of the games to watch athletes overcome conflicts and difficulties on their paths to these games and competing against each other as well, and to decide what can I do in my life that's like that might help me realize my goals and ideals as well. Therefore, the Truce Foundation has the honor to present its Open Fields Award. to the Honorable Dr. Lillian Boyce, Minister of Youth and Sport, receiving it for the people of the Turks and Caicos Islands. The award is inscribed, "The people of the Turks and Caicos have enabled safe passage and participation for athletes, officials, and spectators alike, so that these games might educate the youth of the world through sports and culture." Presenting the award will be Mr. Peter Kaczynski, President of the New York-based Business Council for International Understanding. Minister Boyce, for hosting these games, please accept this award with our congratulations and thanks. I promise to use the inspiration of these days to make a truce with conflicts in my life that constrain me from realizing my goals and ideals.
What we're hoping to achieve with this is it should go beyond the games. We would like for this ode to be part of our everyday lives, and that is the message behind the Truce Foundation. That is what we preach, to resolve the conflicts in our lives, to get along with others, to be considerate, and to pursue our goals to the highest levels that we possibly can. So we really would like for it to be a message beyond every game that we attend, to impact on our daily lives.
I think it's an absolutely great, wonderful idea, but I begin to wonder. It takes time and effort, and it takes someone brilliant, always someone brilliant, to come up with the idea for such an organization. Can you tell us who came up with it? And you say it began in 2000. How did it happen? And of course, the Carifta is held every year. What made you decide that at the 36th, when everyone has decided to bring it to the smallest country that has ever hosted Carifta, you came here?
Well, thank you. I have to say that one of the strong reasons for coming here was my strong relationship with a very dear friend, Georgia Dunn, of the Dunn family from Salt Key. And we have a long friendship, and she introduced me to the fact that Carifta was coming to Turks and Caicos this year. And I said, well, we've got to go now. We've got to do this now. We want to show our support. It's a huge enterprise. The country's going to show itself off beautifully. They deserve our support. And they've overcome probably more difficulty as a tiny country in making such a wonderful production and inviting 26 countries with ministers and athletes to their shores. That speaks volumes. It's one thing for China to host the Olympics. It's a huge country and they can do anything they have to. But we've been so impressed in just our few hours here to see how people have got the spirit of togetherness and what they're doing right now to finish whatever needs finishing in the next few hours to show off well. And so I'm thrilled that Turks and Caicos is the first Carifta to which we've been invited and are participating. I should talk about Georgia Dunn and her family in Salt Key. They're wonderful people, and our friendship goes back a long time. Probably my relationship with Turks and Caicos, although this is my first day here ever, goes back hundreds of years, because my family actually settled Bermuda. In 1609, they were on the vessel that wrecked and wound up in Bermuda. And I know the relationship between Bermuda and Turks and Caicos is historic and fascinating. And I had the privilege of serving as the U.S. consul in Bermuda in the mid-1980s. And so I came to know very well its history and the relationship with Salt Key. I had friends who lived in Salt Kettle in Bermuda, which is across the harbor from Hamilton. and came to learn of salt raking that way, and was fascinated to find out about the relationship with Turks and Caicos and how the White House on Salt Key was established and how a major source of commerce and economic activity was generated. And then to find friends in Georgia, Dunn and her family, who owned the White House and are doing their very best to maintain that history and that legacy, was a very compelling reason for me to come to the Turks and Caicos on a personal basis, and it couldn't have been on a happier occasion than on Carifta 2007. Well, as I say, the Olympic truce was reinvigorated in 1994 by the United Nations. It had been laying dormant, so to speak, since the modern games were reinvented in 1896, and so having been inspired by the Olympic truce in the modern era and seeing what it was capable of doing, a group of us Olympic fans and friends decided to launch into a foundation that would carry that message and harness the inspiration of the Olympic movement. So many of us are so compelled to follow the Olympic Games, but we're spectators and we feel miles away from the heart of it. Because to be an Olympian takes years of training, and somehow we need to be able to participate more directly and personally in the games and in Carifta and in all the regional games to enable spectators to be more than spectators, to have more of a stake in the games by taking an oath, by being inspired by the games and doing something in their lives during those 2 weeks or beyond that says that this has made a difference to them. So the Truce Foundation was also gifted with some resources in 2000 to commission a statue in honor of the Olympic truce for display, which now sits proudly on a hill overlooking Lake Geneva on the grounds of the International Olympic Committee. We commissioned an 8-foot bronze by a very famous Spanish sculptor, and I had the privilege of unveiling that in Lausanne, Switzerland, where it sits permanently at the Olympic Museum. And then just last